The QQQ finishing higher today, but closing in on its 50-day moving average. Are we starting to see signs of the AI rally fading? Well, powerhouse stock NVIDIA is down 5% over the past week. C3 AI and Supermicro both down over 14% in that time frame. Our next guest is out with a new look at the AI impact on the economy and which companies and stocks are most exposed, which is not necessarily a bad thing. We're going to break it all down with Julian Emanuel, Evercore ISI Senior Managing Director. Julian, it's great to have you on the show.
Good to be with you again, Morgan.
All right, let's talk about this because we've been having so many conversations all year long about whether AI is going to be a job killer, whether it's going to be a job supercharger, where we're going to see it adopted first, what all of this is going to look like. And you're, as far as I can tell, the first market participant to actually lay out a methodology and try and wrap your arms around this from a quantitative standpoint. Break it down for me.
We are trying to do it. And look, the bottom line is, if you think about it, the generative AI is like the automobile, which is like the color TV, which is like the internet. There's always a point in time where there's going to be extreme concern on the part of society in terms of embracing change, in terms of regulating the potential sort of unintended consequences of change. But what we would say when you think about the potential for generative AI to create jobs, the important facts, two of them. Number one is that if you look at the last 70 years, increases in productivity have gone hand in hand with increases in jobs. Okay. And then the other fact, which we found very interesting, is that if you look at today, 60%, fully 60% of the jobs that exist right now did not exist in 1940. So it's a question of the difficulty of transition, but ultimately we think the generative AI is something that can really unlock a new chapter in productivity and growth. All the more important because populations globally are starting to peak and decline, and we need new avenues for increasing productivity.
Now, when we see higher rates of productivity, it tends to help with inflation or put downward pressure on inflation as well. Have you looked at it from that standpoint?
Absolutely. And look, whether you're the Fed or you're corporate America or you're anyone right now, one of the largest concerns has been clearly the bump in inflation, albeit moderating, that we've had the last couple of years. And part of that story has been, this upward continued pressure on wages as the labor market has been what I think to a lot of people inexplicably tight. But again, part of that is the aging of the population and several other certainly pandemic related factors. But the fact is that generative AI is specifically designed to help mitigate that through the coming years.
So what sectors do we see adopting it or realizing the benefits from it first?
So there are two in particular that we think are an interesting focus. The first being financial sector, essentially being a very knowledge-intensive, data-intensive, mathematical-intensive industry. What we found is that in an economy-wide number, 32% of all jobs are exposed, or 32% of an average job is exposed to generative AI. That number rises in the finance profession to 43% because of the nature of the work. And so there are two things going on here. Number one, we've certainly seen it in the headlines in recent months. There have been the start of downsizing with the potential for an economic slowdown. That happens in every cycle. But bigger picture, when you think about the potential for productivity boosts in finance, what it does is it frees that entrepreneurial spirit, because finance has long been really ground zero for innovation across the economy when you think about the last 40 years. That's the long run positive. For us, the other sector that's interesting is the consumer sector. Now, because, your local restaurant has, whether it's a barista or a server or whatever, it's a more social aspect to that occupation. Mm-hmm. So there's less that generative AI can affect. But what it can do is do a better job of segmenting clients, understanding their needs, and produce, added revenue by giving the customer more of what he or she wants.